Before we get started today, I want to say thank you for every single like, comment, recommendation, and a very special thank you to my listener support group. If you like what we do here at Off the Deep End Podcast, please consider checking out the listener support tab on our channel's anchor link. Without you, we would not be able to continue the great work we're doing with these conversations, breaking down boundaries and helping heal each other by sharing our stories, our trials, our tribulations, and how we process them. Let's jump straight into this episode.
Are you thinking about making a podcast? Spotify has a platform that lets you make one, and if I can figure it out, you definitely can too. You can create your own content all in one place for free with zero hangups and even earn money as soon as you get started. Spotify lets you record and edit episodes from your phone or computer so you can go mobile, just like I enjoy to do. My favorite thing about it is that you can create video episodes if you wish and upload them to wherever podcasts are heard. You can even set up subscriptions or, if you're like me, listener support options for listeners to help you grow. I 10 out of 10 recommend the Spotify for Podcasters app. Or, why don't you just step over to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your own podcast.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Deep End Podcast. I have an extremely special guest. Not everybody does the basic 9 to 5 or 72-hour shifts, in my case, when they join the United States military. Everyone has a unique and special story. There is no such thing as an average individual serving the United States military, and we do not have an average guest today. Coming all the way from beautiful Florida. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sam. I hope you are enjoying the day.
Eddie, thank you for having me. Appreciate it, man. I'm really excited to have this podcast with you.
Excellent, brother. Excellent. Well, let's start from the nitty, the gritty, the sometimes shitty, but usually a very, very strong and important foundation of everyone's life. What was your childhood like?
Yeah. What was my childhood like? Well, I'm gonna start with I was born and raised in Iraq, Baghdad. And I mean it when I say I was born and raised in Iraq, Baghdad. I didn't move to the States until 2012 when I was 24 years old. So again, I do mean it when I say I was born and raised. So my childhood was under the sanctions, economic sanctions that the U.S. imposed on Iraq. But luckily, my family, my dad, he was doing really good. He's a businessman, and we were considered. There was no middle class in Iraq. There was either rich or poor, and we were kind of in the rich class. So we were. I didn't really have like I when I moved here, I see kids, teenagers. They have to go to work, or make their parents make them go out and work, get a job, and make some money and save money. But in my case, I never really had to work until I was 18-year old. My dad all the time just whenever I needed money, he gave me some, and he even bought me a car when I was in high school. Yeah, he gave me a car. I was the only kid in my high school, literally, like no joke, the only kid in Iraq in Baghdad who drove to school. My friends, car get in with me, and I park my car next to the t-shirts cars. So I come from a big family, and as I think every person, there's always some stuff and that happened, childhood, whatever trauma or you can call it, whatever. But I think I would say, fortunately, I was blessed. I think my parents they did the best they could to take care of me and my kids. Yeah. So
Awesome.
that was my childhood. Yeah, and well, when the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003, uh, things have changed, and war is ugly, right? People die, and families get broken apart. We got displaced by Al-Qaeda in 2006, and we had to leave. We had to leave our houses, leave the car, my car, and we literally. What happened was one day I was going to college. I was in junior year college. I got up in the morning. I was opening the front door, and I see an envelope, Eddie, And I opened up that envelope, and it was a letter. It says like, infidels, you have 24 hours to leave your house. And again, Al Qaeda. I am Muslim, right? And they still called me infidel because I don't follow my family. We don't follow their way of thinking or their extreme practice. So that letter, and beside that letter was a bullet, an AK round, and I got back in and I showed to my dad, and my dad was like, "No, this is a joke. No, but this is not gonna happen. They Someone is messing with us." So then we started talking to the neighbors and some other people in our neighborhood, and sure, other people had it, and some other people actually left, and some houses some families who refused to leave, they got shot and they died, and their house got burned. And my dad at that point said, "Okay, well, we'll leave for a few weeks, and then we'll come back to our house." But then those few weeks turned into years, and our house was burned by Al Qaeda, and we moved. Luckily, my dad owned an apartment somewhere else, and it was empty. We moved to it, and living to me was coming from living in a big ass house to small tiny apartment. Me, my siblings, and my parents. It was very hard for me being the spoiled kid, and now living in an apartment with no furniture, nothing. It kind of was like the wake up call to me, and like, hey, I got to do something. And during that time, too, three of my siblings, female siblings, and not siblings, I'm sorry, I mean my cousins, three of my female cousins, they were kidnapped, raped, and executed by Al Qaeda because simply they were working uh, with the U.S. troops in Iraq, in Baghdad. And my friend, he was like, "Hey, man, you know, Americans are hiring and you speak a decent English that will help the U.S. troops." And then I thought about my cousins, what happened to them, because if I do that, it could happen to me too. But at that time, I felt like I had nothing to lose. Yeah, like I still have my parents and my siblings, but to me personally, I was just full with rage and revenge. I know those two words are very big words, but that's exactly how I felt at that time. And I told him, like, sure, let's go talk to the American company. I did and signed the contract. They did background security check on me, did English test, which was pretty much at that time 2006, whether you if you can say yes, no, or do you know where the weapons are? Because they really needed people to work as translators, as interpreters, and there was anybody who was willing to risk their lives, especially for at that time. The pay was only like 1,100, 1,200 a month. So it wasn't really good money in U.S. standards, but it was an okay money in Iraq. But the risk that you put in your life, I didn't think at that time it was worth it. But to me, what was driving me was the revenge, because I pretty much had three options. Option one was grabbing my dad's AK, which is I didn't know how to use, and go out and go back to my house and shoot the Al Qaeda who moved in into my parents' house, and they literally moved into our house. They moved and they lived like it's their own freaking house. Or and I will die. They will shoot me. They will kill me the first minute if I don't get shot by them, or then the U.S. troops, the U.S. Army will shoot me because they will just see a kid with a gun in his hand and they will shoot me. Or the second option was just sit at home, do nothing, and accept whatever it is. Or the third option was working with the U.S. troops and using their power to get my own revenge from Al Qaeda. Because to me that sounds very smart, but at the same time I would be I was looking at, like, I've seen a lot of Hollywood movies, and they always talk about PTSD and what happens to people who come from the war and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, if I don't die, then I might, uh, like expose myself to some kind of traumas. But at the same time, I was like, well, I grew up in freaking Iraq. I like war is not a new thing, especially after the invasion. Like literally, on my way to school, I see car bombs going off, or IEDs hitting the U.S. troops, or snipers, or gunfights. So those kind of like prepared me, like for dead bodies or gunfights or explosions and all that kind of stuff. So I felt very comfortable, and I thank God. Like, unfortunately, that helped me because I am now, luckily, I still can manage my trauma and all of that, but I'm doing good because me being exposed at a young age and just taking partially, like, if you want to call it doses, it did help. So I signed up with a company called, it was a GLS LP at that time, and I remember, so I had to tell my parents like, hey, I'm going in 2 days. I'm gonna work as an interpreter, and I didn't want to tell my mom or my siblings because what happened to my cousins, and that would just scare them more. So the plan was in my head is that I tell my dad like where I am just in case I die or something happens to me. Someone has to know and collect my body or whatever, or and tell my mother and my siblings that I'm just north of Iraq working in some oil field or whatever. So that worked out pretty well. And uh, what I did is, well, I still remember that moment, that few minutes. I was driving my dad's car, and my dad was in the passenger seat, and I had to tell him like, "Hey, Dad, I've already signed up. I'm gonna be interpreter. It's on my contract, and in 2 days I'm gonna have to leave. But I just want you to know that, and I just can't sit at home and just watch my sisters and my mom just living the life that we were not used to." And my dad, like I said, I would never forget his face or his words. He literally said, "Are you going to work for the invaders, right? For the Americans?" And he's got a point, right? Nobody likes having foreign troops in their country. Would you like having fucking Russian army here, right?
Hell no.
No. Would you like have Chinese army?
They probably come and
No,
try to
right?
take my AK-47s,
Right, but it's that nobody likes having foreign troops in their homeland, but especially as invaders. And but Iraq's case was a lot different. We had Saddam dictatorship and just so much stuff that's going on that, and the U.S. troops always said that the U.S. government always said like, "Oh, we live in Iraq, and in some time we're not going to be there forever," and all, and which is that was the truth. They weren't really planning on staying there forever. Anyway, so when my dad said, "Are you going to work for the invaders?" I turned out while I was driving. I told him, "Who is invading my own home now? Who is living in my own home now?" Right? And my dad, he shook it like he turned his head down, and because I was right for the first time, and because he knew this is it's sad, but it's true. It's not the U.S. troops who invaded my own home. It's a fucking Al-Qaeda fucking terrorists who the one actually the fucking invaders who did they didn't exist before 2003, and now they invaded Iraq and they try and just make destructions and blood and killing every freaking where. And I told my dad, listen, I'm sorry, but even if you don't agree with it, I'm gonna have to go because I signed the contract, and the Americans are gonna come for me if I don't show up. Like I try to make it a little bit more dramatic because I really didn't want my dad to object me going because I really wanted to do that. And then my dad was like, "Hey man, just be safe and be careful. Don't tell people who you are. Where do you live? What's your actual first full name or your full name?" And yeah, pretty much just don't go out and be a hero. Just help Americans, get your own revenge, help them kill Al Qaeda, and that's it. So you got it. And I had a plan just to work for a few months as an interpreter, but those few months turned into 3 years. 3 years and 2 months exactly.
Wow. God, I'm almost speechless. I'm going to try to get through what I'm saying. So your dad said, don't be a hero to you.
Yeah.
I think you are the literal definition of all my listeners, and every single person who grew up like you's hero. That is what a heroic person does. It's an act of heroism to be completely oppressed by a disgusting, pathetic, spineless, cowardice dictatorship, to have a terrorist cell like Al-Qaeda rise up in your country and take your home, kidnap, torture, and murder your own family, and you stand up and say, I'm not going to stand for this shit. That is the definition of a hero. So you know what, whether the world wants to admit it or not, that is an act of heroism. I don't think that heroes wear capes. I really don't.
Yeah,
I never seen a hero wearing a cape. I've never bet Batman. That motherfucker hasn't done shit. I know heroes that wear camouflage. I know heroes that wear medals. I know heroes that wear civilian clothes and wherever they're at, and they are constantly under the strain of hiding their own identity so they don't get their family killed. And I know families that can't even take pictures with their own dad, kids that don't have a picture with their dad because if they find out who he is, their family could be killed.
Yeah.
Those are my heroes, my personal heroes. My heroes, I don't care I don't care about the Kardashians and what they got going on. You know what I'm saying? I think, and also there's heroes that aren't mentioned enough. The heroes that come back with a flag on their casket. Those are my heroes. And I think that you definitely did something extremely heroic. I could not stomach that happening to my family without doing something. I've had horrible, egregious acts done to my own family, and I had to step up and I had to do something because I felt that if I didn't, I would be horrible and worthless. What were some of your thoughts going into it as you first started interpreting for the U.S. forces over there?
Well, on my first day when I got there, the company, the GLS, one of their staff asked me like, "Hey, so we need you, we need interpreters everywhere in the country. Where do you want to go? You can choose what city that you want to go." And I told them because, like I said, I felt like I had nothing to lose, and I think honestly, with time, I come to the realization of, excuse me, the scariest people you can ever meet is the ones who has nothing to lose, right? Because they will go in fully, no matter what the cost is, right? They are determined and they're gonna get what they want, no matter what the cost, well, no matter what's gonna cost them. So to me, at that time, I was that kind of person, and I told them like, hey, wherever I can help the Marines, I actually said Marines. That's what I watch in Hollywood movies. It's all Marines, and wherever I can help Marines kill Al Qaeda more, and they're like, say no more. So then they're like, okay, we'll send you to Haditha, and I don't know if you heard of that town, especially like the Haditha incident where the Marines got hit by an IED. And so, unfortunately, we lost the Marines over there, and then the Marines just lost it, and they went on killing spree, killing, unfortunately, children, elderly, and women. So that's when they sent me exactly at that time. And my first thought it was they took me. I flew from Baghdad to Al Assad, and from Al Assad to Haditha. Actually, when I got into Al Assad, I sat in a tent where they hold all the interpreters before their transit. And in that tent, I met other interpreters. Like some of them were injured, some of the guys were without a leg or an arm, and I was like, "Fuck, that's exactly what it. This shit is real." Other Americans, they have all those armor and like those Humvees and those vests and those helmets that can keep you safe and all those weapons. But it seems our nobody is safe. The Americans are not safe. Definitely the interpreters are not safe either. So I talked to one of the interpreters. I think he was missing a leg, and I was like, "Hey, dude, where were you?" And he was like, "Haditha." Like, nice. That's exactly where I'm going. I think
a
I'm
little
replacing
nerve
you, man.
wracking, just to say the
Yeah,
least.
yeah, and exactly. Like you see this guy, and where is he coming, and and I am going to replace him. And I'm like, shit, man. I really didn't realize what I'm actually was signing up for. But again, I always kept myself reminding myself, like I need to get revenge, and I need a little money to help my family get them back for their work. So that was, and I got a lot of funny stories about that too. But uh, that was what kind of motivates me. I got to make a change. I got to make damage to those motherfuckers, and this is the only way, even if it's costing my life or however, I'm gonna do it. And the best way for me to do it is working with the U.S. Marines. And I got into they flew me to actually I got in a convoy to Haditha. No, they flew me to Haditha, Marijuana, and from there, uh, in a little convoy, they took me to a fob outside, and there was like a team patrolling, foot patrolling outside, and then the passenger was like, "Hey," the convoy leader was like, "Hey, Sam," "Hey, what's your name?" I was like, "Well, Sam, I guess." My first name is Samawi. I go by Sam for short, even back at that time. So I was like, "Hey, I'm Sam." I was like, "Hey, Sam, you see that guy over there? That's who you're gonna work with the whole time. You gotta be attached to his hip." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Get out of the vehicle now." I was like, "Oh, okay." I opened the Humvee door, it was heavy, and I get out and I run to that guy, and I was like, I was 18, I looked so stupid, I didn't know anything, I barely knew how to put the uniform on. I looked like a big ass mess. And then I get to the head guy. His name was Mike. I will never forget him because he was the first guy I ever worked with. And he was like, "Who you are?" And I was like, "Well, I think I'm your interpreter." And he was like, "Okay, what's your name, Sam?" And I was like, "How long have you been doing this, Sam?" And I was like, I looked at my watch. I was like, 15 minutes. I was like 10, 15 minutes. I don't know. I was like, "Are you fucking shitting me? They sent me a new guy. Fuck!" And like he was the head team, right? He was the install guy, so he really needed someone to actually help him. He was like, "Okay, whatever. Just make sure you stick with me wherever I go. Don't fucking leave me. Don't go anywhere you disappear." And he made me feel very, very safe. He said, "Sam, I want you to know, if you get hit, that's mean I already got hit. Nothing is gonna happen to you that's not gonna happen to me first." And he always really watched my back, and I can even tell you, uh, sorry, I think it's really worth hearing, especially with that. I really wish that I'm still in touch with him, but I looked him up. I don't even know his last name, and I don't know anything. But all I knew was his name was Mike, and he had a baby. He had a daughter who was just born in 2006 when I met him. he had a drawing in his arm of his baby girl. And the story is with that mic, like what I'm like when he said I'm gonna make you safe, he fucking meant it. We were inside the house, searching the house, clearing the house, and as an interpreter, you just talk to people. You language, culture, and that's it. You don't search. Yeah, if you want to search, that's fine. If you want to help, that's fine. But that's not part of your job. So I was standing in the middle of the living room, and we knew that house had the homeowner was a terrorist group leader, Al-Qaeda. We were looking for, and his son. We knew them. Like we were looking for them, and we were looking for any weapons in their house. So obviously they were not in the house. So the Marines were searching the house, and the woman and the kids in the house, they were, talking shit to me, like how how uh, how uh, how disgraceful you are working with the invaders, working with Americans, you fucking traitor, you
Oh my
are
goodness.
you are ashamed to Iraq and to Islam and like all the yeah, you're a
It's like
fucking
calling you a race
infidel.
traitor, pretty much. That's horrible.
all everything, and it really sucked at that time because I was Iraqi at that time, and hearing another Iraqi calling you traitor, and I told him like, listen, this I wouldn't be here if your fucking husband would have fucking killing people and displacing people and taking over people's houses.
That's
So
right.
I am here because of your fucking husband. And she was like, well, she got it to the Shia and Sunnis, but she didn't touch me at that time. She didn't try to hit me or anything. But then I stood still in the living room waiting for the guys clearing, and then she got apparently she was in the kitchen, and while I was like just standing like this waiting for the guys, and then the next thing I hear is a thud behind me. Right, it was like boom, and I turn around and I see her on the floor, and I see Mike foot on top of her back, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? You can't touch a fucking woman. You can't hit a woman. What are you doing, man? Like people here already hate us. Like you're just giving the terrorists more reasons to hate us more and attack us." And he literally says, "Shut the fuck up and look at her hand." I look at her hand, and she had a knife next to her hand.
Oh no.
She so her intentions was she was coming behind me, tried to stab me below my vest and on my side. But like I said, Mike, when he said, "Sam, I'm always gonna make you safe," that guy, I thought that he was clearing the house, searching the house. I really didn't see him anywhere. But then again, he comes out of nowhere, and he I would have been I don't know the least that what I would be fucking you know stabbed or dead if he hit me in that place. Well, yeah, that guy literally, and that was like on my first or second day as interpreter. And but that I'm glad that that happened because it made me trust the Marines, Americans, because growing up in Iraq, we've always heard bad things about America, about the UK, about Israel, like oh those three countries are axis of evil, blah blah blah. So me then I get that human connection with Mike and then the other Marines and I talk to them. It it made it made me feel a lot safer and a lot better because I all the stories that I heard before was Americans hate Muslims, hate Arabs, they just want to kill all Muslims, they want to kill all Iraqis and all that all those horrible stories. But when I got talked to the guys, what Mike did to me, it made me feel like, okay, I think I I'm doing the right thing, not just getting my own revenge, but I think I'm helping the right people. And those people, they do really care about me. They do really want to keep me safe, regardless of politics or whatever. But I think the troops, at the end of the day, they whoever went to Iraq, their goals was either helping Iraqis or really like I met a lot of Marines or soldiers or sailors. They were like, I'm just want to visit this cradle of civilization, this country of thousands years old, and I just want to meet the people. Or others were their intentions was just GI Bill or VA benefits or all that kind of stuff. I've never heard any one of them. He says, yeah, like, oh, I came to Iraq just to fucking kill Muslims or kill Iraqis. I swear to God, I've never met anyone or never even heard any stories like that.
That's good.
So my story. That's my first few days as interpreter.
Wow. The first couple of days of interpreter, you meet somebody who obviously had to become like a brother after they save your shit. Like I think that when you're in a very, very dangerous situation and you're around somebody else, you create this weird bond with them that you're in the shit together. You're in the worst situation possible. Deadly force encounters are everywhere around you. People are getting blown to shit. You grew up in this environment, so you're seasoned to it. And there's a lady who tried to take advantage of an opportunity to remove you from this world, and Mike stepped in. We have to find this Mike guy.
I know.
If you're listening right now, if anybody listening, please share this. Let's find Mike. Mike, if you can hear this, you're a badass motherfucker. We gotta find Mike. We gotta find him.
Find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever. But and then and then we got out. And I remember we were patrolling and we saw a hole in the street, and I was like, a big ass hole, and a Humvee door was still on the ground, and I was like, hey, what is this? I was like, yeah, Humvee just got hit by an IED here. I was like, cool, cool. I'm in the right place. We're gonna have so much fun here.
Yeah. Oh man.
It started with someone trying to kill me, a woman trying to kill me. And then actually Mike, he tried to detain her, arrest her, and he put a handcuffs on her and he was like, okay, we're gonna take her back to the fob. And I just tell him like, no, dude, please, I really don't want you to take her. Because again, if we take her, people will say the Americans fucking gangbang her, or the fucking Americans, whatever they did to her, they will just make shit up and that will just rally the locals more and against us, which is not something that we didn't want.
Yeah, it'll inspire more terrorists to emerge.
Exactly. And my goal was really not that. If anything, my goal was kill the radical ones, get rid of them, and stop it there. Just kill the snake, not grow more radicalization. But yeah, and luckily Mike at that time, he because he was an intel officer, he's a smart guy too, intelligent, and he did listen to my advices, and it really made me feel very like I'm an integral part of the team, because like I told him like, hey man, this is what I think, and he was like, yeah, you're right. Well, just handcuff her ass and leave her in her house, handcuff her kids, leave them all, and after we leave, they will figure it out. And it was very emotional day, to think the least, and I got tons of stories like that, and because like I said, I did it for 3 years and 2 months, and I'm not the only interpreter, right? There's thousands of Iraqi interpreters and Afghanistan interpreters, and I'm sure they got a lot of stories more interesting than mine, or more dramatic than mine, or and I think if they are listening to you, I really encourage them to reach out to you or share their stories, man. People really gotta hear them. And it's so funny. 2 days ago, I was in Naples, Florida. I volunteer for nonprofit veterans organization that helps veterans with PTSD or any kind of help that the veterans need. And we were in Naples just doing a fundraise at a golf tournament, and we did really the people there, the companies who were there donating, they did donate a lot of money, so it's really good. And what helped was I shared my story, just not as much as I share now, just a little bit, and most of them, and there were about 150, 144 people, players in the tournament. All the holes were booked, everything. Everybody was just playing golf. But at the end of the day, I shared a little bit of my story, and people came shaking my hand of like, man, I really never thought that I can hear a story like this or meet an actual person who lived through that and who did that. And on top of it all, he's a naval fucking officer right now serving in the U.S. Navy. Right? It to me, it's I talk to friends and I talk to family and I talk to people. I'm like, hey, I really want to know. And I want to talk to people who are specialized in psychology or whatever. Like, I want to know why us, like the interpreters who immigrated to the U.S. Yeah, specifically interpreters, we do have this love to the U.S., to America. I think most of the people who live here, the natives here, they don't have as much love to America as much as we do, because like I started loving America because, like I said, prior to me working as an interpreter, I didn't really give a shit about the U.S. I didn't know much. All I knew about the U.S. was what I saw on TV, which is drugs, sex, alcohol. That's it, right? That's to me. That's what and killing Muslims and all that kind of racist stuff too. And that's what the picture I had in my head. But then working with Marines, although the Marines are not the best teachers to teach you a culture, they are not the best people to teach you anything about a country or a culture. But I did pick up, they taught me the multiple use of the word shit.
Oh yeah.
Or the word fuck, or all that kind of stuff. And actually, there's another story about the word shit. It was with Mike too. On my first few days, I was just hanging out in the fob, and then he comes to me and he was like, "Hey Sam, grab your shit, let's go." And I stood up and I looked at him, and I didn't fucking know what to do.
Go poop and put it in a bag and let's leave.
Dude, Eddie, I swear to God, that's exactly what was going in my head. I didn't know the multiple meanings of the word shit. And in my head, I was thinking, and I saw, I was watching me, he was putting his gear on and everything. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, is this the bio warfare that the US is talking about, the chemical warfare that the US is talking about? Is me grabbing my own shit, my own poop, and go out and fight terrorists? Is that how? And I was like, I don't like. Is this like an American cultural thing, American culture thing that people, poop, they grab their shit in the bag and they go out, and that's like a good luck sign. All those crazy scenarios, it was going in my head, and I really just, I was like I was thinking with myself, I was like, I'm not fucking doing any of that if it means even if I'm fucking quitting and give up my own motivation out of my own cause. And Mike turned back at me and it was like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, dude, I'm not fucking grabbing my shit. Okay? I'm throw my hands. I was like, I'm not grabbing my shit. I was like, what are you talking about? Grab your fucking gear, let's go. It's like, okay. I know gear is. I know what gear is.
The gear I can do. Shit. Yeah, not so much.
No.
My thought. I put myself in your shoes for a second, and I thought, does he mean grab the poop, put it in a paper bag, and you're gonna drive up to your old house, right, where they were sitting there, and you're gonna light it on fire and knock on the door and run and hide in the bushes. And when they try to stomp out the fire, they stomp on some burning
shit.
And now you get to laugh while they're covered in burning shit.
Yeah, I would laugh more if they were covered in fire. But
Yeah,
shit
yeah,
and fire.
and then burn their house down, burn them down, and then shoot them to make sure they died after they were burned to shit.
No, I wouldn't even shoot them. I wouldn't even pee on them. I would just let them take their time burning. Anyway, yeah. So again, like I was saying, is the U.S. Marines are not the best culture or language teachers, but back to they taught me like I think with me starting my love to the U.S. and it started with the love of the brotherhood, right? With the Marines, like we just talked about, because you go out and at that time I started feeling the trust, like, okay, I know I'm safe and I know all those guys, like I'm a fucking local Iraqi Muslim interpreter, and maybe I think like they don't value me or anything, but they do, right? And they did take care of me, and that's how it started, like in the U.S. military as a whole, and then I kept doing it for 2 years. Then moved to the States, and after I got my citizenship, I literally, no joke, on the same day, on 2018, that's when I became a U.S. citizen in 2018. And I had one of the CEOs that I worked for, retired Major Husing. He's the book author of Echo and Ramadi, which is he wrote a chapter in that book about me. He flew down to Florida to witness me being an American. And after we were done with the ceremony, we got out and we were driving, and he was like, "All right, Sam, the first thing you do as an American, we go to Mission Barbecue. As a U.S. citizen, you have to go to Mission Barbecue." I was like, "Okay, but I have another request. There's another thing I want to do before we go there." I was like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I want to go to the recruiter." Actually, I was thinking about the Marines. I told him, like, I want to go to the Marines recruiter and I want to join it. And I told him I want to be like you, an officer, because I do feel miss that purpose in my life, that camaraderie and that brotherhood in my life. I worked a civilian job prior to that, and I still was missing that. I'm not getting that fulfillment when I wake up. I wake up, I'm not a very morning person, but in my drill weekends or when I'm on orders, I wake up early and motivated. But when I go to my civilian job on my normal days, I drag my ass. But that's just it, because I feel like when I go in uniform, I am making a difference. I'm making a big impact. Whether I can see it or not, I know that I am. And I am part of the decision making that helps us and helps keep our country and our people safe too. So and Major Hughes, and he was like, "No, don't go to the Marines, go Navy or Air Force." But long story short, then I ended up talking with a Navy recruiter, and I was commissioned in 2021, actually July 2021. July 16, 2021, when I was commissioned as a lieutenant, direct commission officer. And that's how I met Lieutenant Commander Urick. Love that guy. He's an inspiration to me. He's awesome. I can tell you a funny story about him too. I was in his office one day, and an ensign comes in and try to talk to him about leave or something. And I was on the computer working, and I turn around and I see Lieutenant Commander Urick, and he was talking to that ensign. And that ensign boots, he was wearing the black boots, the leather boots, and it was dirty and muddy. Yeah, and if one thing I know from your podcast with him, Lieutenant Commander Urick, he loves his uniform. Everybody, military bearing, like keep the tradition, keep, all of that, which is I do too. I highly respect it, and I encourage it too. So, and I saw Lieutenant Commander Yurik looking down, saw the booth, and he just rolled his eyes, took a deep breath because he was pissed, he was upset, right? But he didn't want to say anything. And then what I did is I was like, okay, I got to do something. And then Lieutenant Commander goes back to his computer doing something for him. And then I get up, talk to that ensign. I was like, hey, dude, get out now, clean your boots, and come back. And like whispering, I was not trying to make him uncomfortable or make a scene. And I didn't want to thank Commander Yurik knows either. But he did find out. He did somehow knew what I said to him. And he was like, oh, yeah, I was riding my bike and it was raining outside. I was like, dude, no excuses. You can tell me all about it later. Just go out, clean it, because Tank Commander Yurik really doesn't like that. And he was like, oh, okay, yes, sir, thank you. He goes out, and then Tank Commander Yurik comes back up, and he was like, hey, where did he go? I was like, oh, sir, he just ran out. He'll be back in a second. And then he looks back at me and he was like, Sam, I know what he told him. And I appreciate you for doing it. I was like, well, sir, I saw the way you look, and I know you don't like, messy, dirty uniforms or boots or that kind of stuff. And I was like, yep, I really don't like that. And I felt like, well, this guy, he was an ensign, and I think he just got off OCS, OCS is very, very hard, right? I think they do a minimum of 13 weeks, and I didn't go to OCS, but I saw them when I went for ODS, which is the reservist version of OCS. And I saw the training that they go through, and I was like, thank God I didn't go through OCS. But that guy, yeah, their training was brutal. It literally, and I only saw them. My ODS training was 5 weeks, so I only saw them for 5 weeks while we do our own training. And I thank God every day that I wasn't OCS. But this guy somehow he was falling behind on his uniform and his boots. Yeah,
He got lit up. He was about to get lit up.
Oh, he man. Was. and Lieutenant Commander Yurik, he would light the shit out of him, but for somehow that day, Lieutenant Commander Yurik wasn't feeling it, and he just felt he had enough just by sighing and rolling his eyes, and but I did take care of it for him, right?
That's good, man. Yeah. Yes. So there are so many amazing parts of your story that I love to touch on. There is a amazing human being over here in my area called Mike Schindler, and he works in the film industry. He also does a whole lot of things with working with other military family members, helping raise up people from different locations, mentoring other people when they get out of the military and also while they're in the military. And he's just a huge inspiration to me. Something he said in his movie about living a VUCA lifestyle is that there's just something very, very unique and special about this story. The story of the hero in this world, or the story like in any movie that we watch with whether it's Black Hawk Down, The Lion King, we have a situation that shows up. We set the scene. There's a situation that changes everything. The situation becomes very volatile, and nobody knows how to deal with it. Somebody rises to the occasion when they feel this burning urge, this purpose, this drive that's inspiring them to climb this fucking mountain they have to. And then the situation gets either resolved or they fail doing it and learn a lesson afterwards. And that's what makes all movies great. Even Rocky, the movie Rocky, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think there's something that can be said about we all can be heroes in our own story when we feel that drive, that fear set in surrounding it. Oh God, what's going to happen? For your scenario, am I going to get blown to shit by Al-Qaeda? Am I going to get shot by U.S. forces?
Yeah.
I know I can't sit in this situation. I have to act. I have to take action. And I think that it's really inspirational to me, and it's definitely going to be to everybody listening, and that it takes a certain amount of discipline mentally, very strong constitution, and a strong moral compass as well, to say, I'm not going to stand for this shit. The people that stood up against the Nazis, amazing individuals. The people that stand up against terrorist organizations, amazing individuals. I think that we can all do it. What are some of the driving factors that really go through your head when you're overcoming fear?
Overcoming fear. I think spirituality is part of it. But to me, it's been a long time since I've done that, because my life now in the US, there's really not much fear here. Just fear of me going to a gas station and there's a long line, or getting cold coffee instead of hot coffee. That's kind of the fear that I switch to now, personally. But back at that time, the way that, and this is gonna sound crazy or funny, whatever the way that you would want to think about it. But the way I dealt with my fear, just going out and knowing that we're gonna get hit by an IED or a car bomb or sniper, or just in a gunfight, is I did two things. One is I made friendship with death. I literally, in my head, what I used to do is I talk to death in my imagination, death, and I'll be like, hey, death, please, not today, or not tomorrow, not today, not tomorrow. I still want to do this thing, and I still want to go home. I want to see my mom, I want to see my dad, and I want to see my siblings. And with that, honestly, that would, and having like that spiritual or that imagination dialogue with death, and having that kind of feeling is that death tells me like, yeah, okay, I got you today, I got you tomorrow, I got you on this mission. And that it did, honestly did help me a lot by becoming fear, not 100% fearless, but it helped me overcome my fear a lot. And the second thing that I used to do is, at every night before if we ever get sleep, whatever sleep that you, at that time we get 3 4 hours, but before I go to bed and sleeping back or rack or just on the floor, I remember, I go through my mental pictures, per se. Remember my dad's face, my mom's, my siblings, my sisters, brothers, my nephews, my nieces, and just kind of remember their faces and keep that emotional connection, right? Because it's, I think the, for any person who deals with stress or anxiety, number one thing that they are having is lack of connection, right? If you if you really have people around you that you talk to, your stress and anxiety level goes a lot lower. And overseas, we are not really, I think the most of your listeners would agree with me. Overseas, like, we have the stigma about talking to a psychiatric or anybody or therapist or all that kind of stuff. It's, it's a masculine thing overseas, but it's not healthy. But the way I think we are not doing, like, over there, they're not doing it because there's other way of uh pers- the the other way of dealing with your stress, which is your therapist over there and overseas is your community, your family, your friends. Because like, I remember when I was growing up, I talked with my siblings and even my friends about everything that's bothering me. That's why I wasn't feeling any stress or any anxiety, because they were my therapist and I'm their therapist, and everybody as each other's therapists. And but here, unfortunately, the people who are dealing with stress and anxiety, and I'm busy here with my daughter and my own family, and I'm not having that as much connection that I need to before, which is as much as I need to, or as much as I used to, is having two jobs, Navy Reserve and my full time job too, my civilian job, and having a kid. It keeps you busy, and your focus changes, and then you forget about yourself, and uh, that would eventually lead to diseases, illnesses, because you can't separate biology from psychology, and you can't separate psychology from society. And I think us, the veterans community, are coming to this realization by, hey, it's not us just talking to therapists is going to help me, or it's not me just taking those pills or whatever, or go see a doctor that's going to help me. Yeah, it's a big uh, chain. It's a long chain, but you need every piece of it to make your life better. And I think the most important uh, part of that chain is your community, your society, your veterans community, because they are the only ones who would feel and understand what you are talking about. And when you say like, "Hey, man," like 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 when we just talked now about cold coffee, that now pisses me off, right? It does not actually the cold coffee pisses me off. It's the anger memory that associated with it what pisses me off. It's like it because like there's an emotional memory and there's this brain memory at the same time. And this emotional memory triggers when you get upset about something. When you get upset about something, it's not that something exactly what upsets you. It's something in your memory that that thing reminded you and made you upset about it. So, and I think we are the veterans community, and I try to help be a part of it. Just talk to veterans, and especially veterans from Iraq or Afghanistan, and they just talk about like, hey, I'm having time, or my spouse or my friends, they don't understand what I'm talking about, but they don't understand what I'm feeling. I'm like, okay, well, talk to me, tell me what's going on in your head, and I'm not I'm not judging you. I'll tell you the same fucked up stories about myself too, and I know you're not gonna judge me because that's what we fear in our society. We fear being judged, and it's unfortunate at the same time, but that's the reality, right? You get judged by the car you drive, the clothes you wear, the watch you wear, or the way that you wear your hair, or any kind of that stuff. That's just unfortunately the human nature.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's so much value with what you just said there. How veterans connect with other veterans is really important. There's an organization I'm a part of, MVP, where we do peer-to-peer support, and there's no need to put a label on it. No VA, no any of these agencies. We just meet up. We're from different branches. We didn't have the same experience. I don't know what it's like to be blown up by an IAD, but my friend next to
Yeah,
me can talk to me about it, and I can provide empathy and understanding, and it helps me, it helps him kind of de-stress, deload, remove this weight that sometimes sits on our shoulders when we're in the quiet times, is when it usually the demons kind of creep up. Um,
yeah, yeah.
and I think
It
it's very important to talk to other veterans.
it is very important because a loneliness kills you, right? And being lonely sometimes, just being by yourself, it's not it's good, just having that time alone, it's good. But you don't want to get there. You don't want to be alone by yourself until you are very comfortable with yourself again. And you're not gonna get there again until you talk with other people and just share your emotions, share your feelings, just talk about it. There's a study that shows talks about marriage and stuff. It shows that the spouses who express their feelings and their emotions, the spouses who does not express their emotions and feelings are 4 times more likely to die sooner than the ones who share their emotions and feelings. 4 times, Eddie. So what I'm trying to say here is, suppressing or holding your feelings and emotions. You think you are being a tough man or a tough woman or whatever. It's a it's gonna hurt you in the long run. And I was watching a show the other day. I think Louder Milk. I think the show's name on Amazon Prime. And one of their characters said, "Hurting yourself is easy, but living is hard."
That's right.
Right? And that shit, it hit me really hard. I was like, "That's fucking so damn true." You can don't give a fuck about anything anymore. Just don't. Doesn't mean hurting yourself physically, but just by not going to work, by not taking care of yourself, hygiene, and all that kind of stuff. It's easy. Just don't give a shit anymore. But living, actually, going, taking a shower, getting up in the morning, taking a shower, fixing your bed, going to work, having a smile on your face, a genuine smile, that shit is art. Genuine smile, that shit is art, right? And that's why what I mean is by living is hard, and it's a lot of work, but the key to it is discipline and persistence. And we are the veterans community. We are really good at being disciplined, but unfortunately, when we get out, we fall off the wagon and we kind of don't have that discipline again. But we got to keep that same. The key is you got to keep that same lifestyle, same discipline, and that's why at the same time you see some veterans are key leaders in many different industries, technology or hospitality, service, or any kind of industry. You see that the veterans are the ones who are running big companies, because it's not because they have preference as military veteran. No, they are there because just simple as they have this discipline and respect. You don't get that from anybody who just graduated from college or high school or whatever. They don't teach that, unfortunately, discipline and respect and persistency, or yeah, those three things they don't teach them in school, unfortunately.
I wish they did. There'd be a lot more successful individuals, but at the same time, if we don't have people that can fill that vacuum, right, in their own life, if they don't have the vision to see, I'm lacking in these areas, the self-awareness, I would say that's something that shouldn't have to be taught to you at some point. At some point, you should look at your house and say, my house is dirty as shit. I better start cleaning it. Or I think my toe might be broken. Probably should deal with that shit instead of just pretend it doesn't exist. Self-awareness is very important, and I encourage everybody listening, and especially the veterans tapping in, be self-aware and be aware of the brothers and sisters that you've served with. If you have a thought about somebody, reach out to them. Like, I think about friends pretty often from the Navy, and I always text them or message them or track them down and say, hey, I was just thinking about you today. I hope you're doing well. That one thing can literally save a life. That one thing can literally inspire them to reach out to other people around them too, because you never know. Loneliness is a killer. It is a killer.
It is a killer. And if you're really that kind of person, introvert, and you don't want to really spark conversation, you can do it by just sending a meme. You see a funny, hilarious meme that you relate to, and the veteran community relate to, just send that shit to your veteran friend, and that's it. And it will let up a smile on their face, and it will make their day. Just that I'm in some groups, some friends, veterans, and I see those memes all the time, and it through all the or just normal day to day life shit, it put a smile on my face. It's the meme therapy, right? The memes therapy. It's powerful.
Yeah. Comedy is great, especially our dark humor. A lot of people can't relate to it.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes that makes us feel like a fish out of water kind of. But you know what?
It is who we are.
Jay Glazer said, "Motherfucker, I'm different." And I think a lot of people in the military feel different. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a bad thing. You have different experiences, and that's what makes you special. I think that we should, as a human beings, stop looking at ourselves like just labels. Like I'm not just a veteran. I'm not just a half black guy. I'm not just recording a podcast in my downstairs basement. I'm not just an elevator and an escalator tech. I'm also a human being, and I have dreams that I want to achieve. I have goals and aspirations. I have people that believe in me, and I have people that I believe in. I believe in most people, but generally speaking, it's important for us to have that vision. My last question for you is this, my brother. What does the phrase service and sacrifice mean to you?
That's service and sacrifice. I think what service and sacrifice means is that having, like I said before, having a purpose in your life and selflessness and the feeling of belong, right? Because in the military, I think that's the only place that I ever felt that I belonged, and in any organization. And it's pride at the same time too. It's you got to be very proud of wear that fucking uniform proudly. Walk with your head high and do your job proudly too, and do it to the best that you can, and look after each other. That's the service and sacrifice. That doesn't mean with sacrifice doesn't mean like you give up or service, give up your own family or give up your own self or you know, no, it means that you are. Let me put it in a like you are like it's an engine, right? Let's say the Navy or whatever branch. It's a big ass engine, and you are just that one piece, that little tiny piece of that engine, and you think to yourself that you are not making a big change or you're not significant. But guess what? That little part, if it falls off, if it falls off, that whole engine, it affects it, right? So you are, no matter what job you do, from whether you're just cleaning or you are the CEO of a ship, captain of a ship, or whatever you are, uh, your job is as much as important and your service and your sacrifice is as much as important as the biggest person in the whole fleet or in the whole Navy or in the whole military.
Wow. I love it. I always enjoy getting different answers, and it's never the same thing. I've never once heard in this whole series somebody say that, just what you just said. So I really do love that. And I really do admire your perspective. I appreciate you taking the time for us to do this. And more than anything, I really appreciate what you did. That I have quite a few people who I look up to in this day and age who were overseas during the time you were overseas, and who knows who you ran into, who knows who you were within 500 feet of. The military, it's a huge thing, but it's very, very tight knit community. And often we forge these amazing bonds. We have to find Mike, everybody. If you're listening to this, share this podcast. Demand people share it. We got to find Mike. Mike,
Hey,
he's seeing knives, tackling wives. All right, we gotta track him down, man. That guy.
hey, I guarantee you, one of your people are know him, or if they don't know him, it's the second degree of separation. It started as 7 degrees separation, but I think in this day and age, it's 2 degree separation. So I'm pretty sure someone out there. Yeah, and the other thing that can identify him, he just had a daughter in 2006, and he had he drew a tattoo on his arm of his daughter, of his baby daughter.
And that's truly beautiful, right? I
Yeah.
love that.
It
I,
shows the human connection, right? It's funny when the U.S. came to Iraq, Iraqis were thinking they are aliens, came from space. They looked all different with all their gear and uniform, with all their shit. I'm sorry, with all their shit and their vehicles and all that kind of stuff. We were like, they're aliens. But yeah, they were just another fucking human being, just like us, had who had goals in their life, just want to go to college, have a family, raise their kids, and have a nice quiet house. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing. I don't think that I can even put in words how inspirational it's been for me to have this conversation with you, and I'd love to have you on again to tell me more stories and share more experiences so that we can really get a positive perspective. I know there's a movie that just came out with I think Jake Gyllenhaal about interpreters, and I'm really excited to watch it. I'm probably gonna watch it tonight with my wife, and it hopefully it does justice to those who serve. Tim Kennedy in his book talks about amazing interpreters, and he went back to Afghanistan with an organization to bring back some human beings with some of the team members that he deployed with. I think that interpreters are phenomenal, outstanding human beings, braving inconceivable situations just in their hometown. Like people say, don't cop where you live. This is some real wartime shit. And wow, how amazing are our interpreters is what that's what I gained. That's what I gained from this conversation. Thank you so much for providing this perspective. I appreciate your service, and I definitely appreciate the hardships that you had to endure during that, and you powering through them, man. That is huge.
Appreciate it, Eddie. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad that I had the time shared with you too.
100%, brother. 100%. And thank you so much to each and every single listener. This has been another episode of Service and Sacrifice, the special series of Off the Deep podcast where we highlight military stories. If you know one person who might be connected to Mike, please do share this, share. And let's bring some new perspective to the United States of America and everywhere else where this is listened to about our interpreters and how great they are. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And as always, take care of yourselves. Do some temperature checks and reach out to a friend. Much love, y'all, and bye-bye.
Before we get started today, I want to say thank you for every single like, comment, recommendation, and a very special thank you to my listener support group. If you like what we do here at Off the Deep End Podcast, please consider checking out the listener support tab on our channel's anchor link. Without you, we would not be able to continue the great work we're doing with these conversations, breaking down boundaries and helping heal each other by sharing our stories, our trials, our tribulations, and how we process them. Let's jump straight into this episode.